Now, detonate the reality bomb!
I will build a great, great wall.
Some alien race to come down and threaten us.
Is the singularity near?
The truth is out there.
The military-industrial complex.
The 7 mountains of the influencers of culture.
To be as gods, you know.
Change has come to America.
Catapult the propaganda.
From a secure location on top of the ridge in the heart of the beautiful Missouri Ozarks, this is A View from the Bunker. Now, here's Derek-Gilbert.
In August, you'll have an opportunity to visit the site that inspired the Netflix series Stranger Things. And we'll talk to our guest about that as we welcome you to A View from the Bunker. I'm Derek Gilbert. Thank you for watching us at youtube.com/Derek Gilbert or listening vftb.net, Spreaker.com, Stitcher.com, or wherever fine podcasts are sold. We thank you for joining us today and hope that we can see you on Long Island in August. Joining me today is one half of the team, well, actually, the other half sitting there just out of camera range, that puts together the Hear-the-Watchmen conferences, a family that is gathering a couple of times a year in the flesh, but also virtually through medium like this. Mike-Kerr. Mike, welcome.
Derek, thank you. It's nice to be here with you today, and it's an honor. I'm humbled.
Good to have you here in the Ozarks. This conference coming up in August, Lifting the Veil, Long Island, August 9th through 11th, and then we'll tell you more about the tour on the 12th here a little bit later on. This is what we in the business call a tease. Why Long Island? Why? I mean, you've been at Dallas now for several years. Mm-hmm. You've been at Knoxville. We were honored to be a part of the gathering in Boise last year and saw the total eclipse of the sun. It's absolutely perfect weather for it. It was phenomenal. But this will be the first time to the East Coast for Hear the Watchmen. How come?
Oh, it is, Derek. It's our first venture all the way back to the East Coast to put on a conference. And we were actually asked to come there. We were blessed by a wonderful woman by the name of Jeanette, who lives on Long Island, and who said she would actually sponsor some of the conference if we would come there and bring it, because she felt it was so important for us and all of the speakers like yourself, like Pastor Paul Bagley, Russ Dizdar, L.A. Marzulli, Pastor Casper McLeod.
Oh, yeah. Rabbi Zev Porat. And Henry Groover. To come out there and just to bring the light. And that's why the name of the conference is called Lifting the Veil. And why do we want to lift the veil? We want to lift the veil of darkness that seems to be taking over not only Long Island, but many parts of the country. And those are the parts of the country that we want to go into. You know, it's truly as easy to go in and do a conference in the Bible Belt, Derek. I mean, because you're preaching to the choir. Mm-hmm. But really, we should be going into the places where we can bring new people into our family, because Hear the Watchman truly is a family. And you've witnessed that, I believe. I mean, you must have felt that when you come to our conferences, it feels like a family reunion. Yeah. Yeah, it was. We really didn't know what to expect when you guys invited us to the conference in Dallas last March, because all we knew is okay. Well, L.A. and Russ have done some of these. We know them, so they're all right. So the Jeannie and Mike must be okay too. But the conference was a wonderful, wonderful time. We just felt a spirit there that, and I don't normally talk this way. If you've been watching this, listening to this program for any length of time, you know that I was not raised in a denomination where we talked about the spirit or spiritual things. It was a very liturgical, high church type denomination, where you followed the liturgy, and if it wasn't in the bulletin, you didn't say it. That type of thing. So for me to say something like that, it was tangible. It was palpable. I could feel it. Sharon is much more sensitive to things like that than I am. And she will agree with me that there was a spirit there that was very warm. Mm-hmm. It was, and we saw it even in the presentations, without meaning to. Everybody from Carl Gallos to Pastor Mike Spalding, Josh Peck, Casper McLeod. Just all of the presentations came together in a sort of. Almost as though the Holy Spirit was sort of guiding things. Gee, what a concept for a Christian to think about something like that, huh?
And that's been the case at each of the conferences that we've attended so far. So we are, very, very much on board now with the Hear the Watchmen family and what you guys are trying to do.
Well, Derek, that's a huge blessing to have you and Sharon and Josh and Christina, and now Tom Horn has put his arms around us, and we need that because we started off just the two of us. I mean, and we don't really do this. God brings all this together.
Right, right.
The feeling that you get in the room is the Holy Spirit being in the room. We have truly seen lives changed. We have seen a woman with cancer, truly, after prayer. You've met her, Jeanette. Mm-hmm. She's cured of cancer now. I have another gentleman coming to Long Island that he has never been to any of the Hear the Watchmen conferences. He couldn't because he was too sick. We've all been praying independently for him, and now he will be there in Long Island, and he is cancer-free. We've had marriages. We've had babies. Most recently, my assistant, Taylor Joseph, who you know.
Yeah.
And a friend of Christina's, Sandy. Uh-huh. We went to the conference, and I had a dream that Taylor was going to meet his wife at the conference in Dallas last night. So he gets to the conference, and what does he do? He goes, okay, where is she? I said, Taylor, that wasn't the dream. The dream was you were just going to meet your wife. Go, get busy, do what you got to do out here. And, God bless him. He and Sandy met. We just finished spending the weekend with Taylor and Sandy at Coach Dave's Occupy Conference in Canton, Ohio. And they are an incredibly beautiful couple. You can see the love and Jesus in both of them. And they're actually getting married on June 3rd, and Jeannie and I are going to go up and be a part of that.
Amazing.
But it's the blessings. It's the blessings that the Lord bestows upon those who take the time to come out and hear his word.
Well, Taylor was definitely a blessing to us at the Boise conference, because if Taylor had not been willing to drive from Boise to Sun Valley, Dr. Michael Lake and Sharon and me would have spent a nice weekend in a ski resort, but nowhere near the conference. So Taylor was a lifesaver that day. That was an interesting.
It was an interesting journey.
Yeah.
We were praying for you guys the whole time, and the problem was we didn't realize when we arranged that conference that weekend was the total eclipse of the sun.
Yeah.
We didn't realize it. And then the town and every town near it and every available rental car gone.
Yeah.
And so we were just praying you guys could find a way in. And Taylor said, when I told him you and Dr. Michael Lake and Sharon were up in Sun Valley and needed a ride, and it was an hour and a half away, he was out the door before he was gone. He was going to get you guys, and he was like, are you kidding me? I would love to spend an hour and a half with them in the car together. So.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Not as much fun as watching Dr. Lake run through the airport in Denver, though. Yeah.
People got out of the way, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, because Michael's a big fella.
Yes.
And he was hustling, saying, look, if we can find a way to make it like 5 minutes opposite end of the terminal, ain't going to happen. Let's just go to the airline and see what we can find. But he gave it an effort,
and you guys made it.
Yeah. Well, God worked it out. That was incredible. So this particular setting on Long Island, Jeannie mentioned, and if you haven't not yet had the opportunity, there'll be a program coming up on Skywatch TV, one of the web exclusives on Skywatch TV, where Jeannie talks about the sense of darkness, I guess.
Yes, absolutely.
That your friend Jeanette has told you about there on the island. What is behind that? Has Jeanette given any? Is there any ideas as to why that might be, or what is leading to the urgency for having this conference there?
Well, I'll tell you what, Derek. It's hard to put your finger on exactly where the influence comes from, but there seems to be, and I talked to Russ Dizdar about this as well. Russ will be there with us. And Russ does a lot of work down through there, and there just seems to be a demonic presence. Now, I'm not saying that all New Yorkers are demonic. I'm certainly not saying that everybody...
Only Mets fans.
Right, only Mets fans.
I grew up in Chicago.
Yeah.
I've still not forgotten 1969. So, Mets fans,
but
kidding.
Russ is in there and he's working it, and we just feel that right now
And Jeanette has shed some light on what's going there. And we now feel it's our responsibility as the remnant body to get in there and shed as much light as we possibly can. And that's why we're really encouraging people, not just from the eastern seaboard, to join us for this. We want our regular hear-the-watchmen, as many of you as can get there, to get out there to Long Island. Heck, it's summertime. You take your vacation time. Come on out there and help us to bring the word of the Lord to as many people as we possibly can so that they can in turn go out and spread the word of the Lord through the darkness that seems to exist there, because it is our responsibility as the remnant body. It's our responsibility as Christians to spread the word.
The tour on August 12th, I guess we'll jump to this a little early just because I think this is such an intriguing aspect of the whole weekend. And certainly this is not to overshadow what the importance of the weekend, which is edifying, educating the fellowship. As we talked about on the Skywatch TV episode, one of the things that I found the most remarkable about the most recent conference in Dallas, and I'm sure this has happened at every one of the conferences. This, I think, I probably just noticed it this time, because one of the young men involved was somebody who had contacted me through a mutual friend, and then I put him in touch with you, and you're gracious enough to extend an invitation to this young man. But he was out there praying with everybody that he could lay hands on.
Yeah,
and not in and again, forgive me because this is my liturgical church background where this kind of thing was considered, Bible thumping crazy. But he was not doing it in a way to be offensive. He was just, hey, I just feel like you need some prayer. And there were people like, yeah, there are things going on. And he was out there praying with people all over the place. Mm-hmm. But there was a lot of that going on throughout the weekend. Once I started looking for it, it's like, oh yeah, there's a group of people over there. And there's a group of people over there. It was almost a weekend-long worship.
We bring prayer out of the closet, for sure, Derek.
Yeah.
We encourage.
That's a really good way of putting it, because God, I love my mother, and Jeannie, you were such a great help for Mom's 80th celebration. Elvis, amazing performance for Mom's 80th celebration. But she comes out of she was actually raised Seventh-day Adventist, but not really practicing. As a kid, we were raised in more liturgical, very structured church settings where prayer is something that the pastor did. And if we ever prayed, it was only the Lord's Prayer, which we all memorized, or it was printed in the bulletin where we read the section that was in bold type. Other than that, you didn't. So Mom was surprised to find out when, I went over there to have lunch with her not too long ago, and the director of events for the retirement community said, "Oh, would you like to pray?" Because it's owned by the United Methodist Church, and here in the Bible Belt, the Methodists are still, Methocostal.
Yes.
And to me now, that's natural. Just getting up and praying in front of a group of people, it doesn't bother me. For Mom, it was like, wow, you sound like you've done that before. It's like, well, yeah. In fact, most days here at Skywatch TV before we have lunch when we gather together, right. I guess I'm just the one who's he's the one with the big mouth. Here, you do the prayer. But it was not something that I was raised in, and so to see that and to see this going on around still, even after now years of being together with Sharon, who was raised in an independent Baptist church, which is as close to Pentecostal as you can get without being one, and being together with people, Tom's Old Assemblies of God, the Horn family. So even being around that for years, seeing this happening with people who just met, to me is still like, wow, this is what we should be doing. Why aren't we more people doing it? Again,
Derek, that truly is the Holy Spirit working. I mean, that really is. But the foundation that we built here, the Watchmen, upon was worship, restoration, and revival. So the worship part is where we get together and we listen to Pastor Paul Begley speak. We listen to all the speakers, you included, L.A. Marzulli, Carl Gallups, Pastor Carl Gallups, who just blows the roof off the room.
Oh, yeah.
He and Begley I am surprised that the building is left standing after the two of them have preached.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's the worship part. You know, the restoration comes from where we encourage people to repent. We encourage them to talk to the Lord about the things that bother them, to break those strongholds, break the chains, and free themselves up. The revival portion is where we try to help them to get out there and activate their faith, and get out and be one of Jesus' workers. It's not about coming to the conference and just hanging out there. It's about going home and doing the work in the field. And so we hope to do that with our conferences. I think we're getting there, and I think we get better and better as we go along. Long Island, we really hope to do it there. And, you know, there's kind of a special trip on the 12th. Let's see. Well, you go ahead.
Well, this tour, which will take place on Sunday morning, I gather, after those who choose to be baptized, will go to Camp Hero on Montauk Point, New York, which is the tip of Long Island, where an old Air Force base was the site of experiments that were allegedly performed on children, mind control, parapsychology, very occultic things. And it is documented. Now, you know, what exactly happened at Montauk is still open to question. We don't know for sure. There are people who have witnessed things there and are willing to testify that they have seen things or participated in things at Montauk. It is documented that the United States government, the United States military, the intelligence community, after World War II, possibly working with information obtained from Nazis, scientists, engineers, technicians, intelligence operatives who were brought over under Operation Paperclip, were working to find ways to weaponize the occult. There's no other way to put it. This resulted in projects like Stargate, Grill Flame, the book and movie that were played for laughs. Sadly, The Men Who Stare at Goats down at Fort Benning, General Albert Stubblebine, the creation of the 1st Earth Battalion under Colonel Jim Channon, people like Michael Aquino. Colonel Michael Aquino was part of this, the founder of the Temple of Set, which, by the way, gets back to the whole chaos god thing that I've been talking about and researching here, Set being the Egyptian chaos god. That was all part of a program that began in the 50s especially, and continued on into the 80s at least, but probably continues to this day, although we just don't know about it, that the United States government was involved in trying to find guys who could, you know, kill people by staring at them, walk through walls, levitate, remote view, or project their bodies into the astral plane, doing all of these things that God had said were forbidden practices in the Bible in the interest of national security.
Right.
And Montauk was one of those facilities where this type of research was being done, where children were being experimented on to see if they could develop them into these psychic warriors, I guess. Now, did that really happen at Camp Hero? We don't know. There are some claims that it did, in fact, happen. But it's one of those stops for people who are interested in this type of research, I guess, and that's kind of a clinical term for it, because really it's a spiritual wickedness that children should be used in that way for any purpose. So it's definitely something that we want to see, and there will be some other stops on the tour that day.
Yeah, absolutely, we're going to have a great time. But and all glory goes to my lovely wife for coming up with this idea. When she said we're going to go do the Montauk Mystery Tour, I said, the what? And there's been all of this stuff surrounding Montauk and what may have happened there, what may not have happened there, and we thought, what a better way. The conference is over. We've done the baptism. So now this is a separate activity. But what a better way than to go with some of the top researchers in the country, Derek-Gilbert being one of them. His wife Sharon will be with us. L.A. Marzulli will be there. And Russ Dizdar will be there. And then we may add some more. But these people are the people who really ferret out what's fact and fiction. And so we kind of want to go and take a look. And then afterwards, we're going to a beautiful little seaport village. The name of it is Can't remember the name of it right now. I can't either, but it's a beautiful little seaport village. We're going to spend a little time there, walk around, see the sights, and then we'll come back to the hotel. So
for a kid raised in the Midwest, anytime I get the chance to see the ocean, it's just an awe-inspiring thing because Chicago, okay, Lake Michigan, that's it's a big body of water, but it's not the ocean.
It's not the ocean.
I've seen it a couple of times, and it's when you're out on a ship one time where you were out far enough where you don't see anything but water all around. That is really
yes, it is.
It's awe-inspiring, and it just reminds you of the...
It makes you feel pretty small, just you and God, right?
Yeah, the incredible creation into which he's dropped us, and the time in which he's dropped us for whatever reason. Michael Lake has said this before, and I think this is really an interesting observation, and somehow my microphone is now starting to... Well, we have been having... You may have noticed some edits in the program here, and suddenly the audio...
Well, look what happens when you start talking about Montauk.
I guess. Hold on.
That's right. We did.
You keep talking.
We did forget, folks, to mention Dr. Michael Lake will be at the conference as well.
No, that's whoa. Okay, yes, I switched mic cables, and now suddenly I'm hurt. No, that's fine.
You're back.
Yeah, I'm back, and this is weird. Yeah.
Well, it's not like I said. It's not weird to us. Remember, we're the guys that put on a conference in Knoxville, Tennessee, and had Anthony Patch. Anthony Patch did his whole presentation. We had 2 digital backup cameras and a professional. You've seen our setup.
Right. Those guys, Jason and the crew, they know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing. And then as soon as Michael Lake was done and they went to render it, both copies just vanished.
Yeah.
Never happened to Jason before, never happened since. So we're kind of used to it.
We had something very similar to that happen here just over the weekend during some interviews being conducted for a documentary film on the occult, where an hour and a half worth of interview just kind of went
gone
up in digital smoke.
Gone. Yeah.
Now, got it back, thankfully, but it required having to call the guest back.
Yeah, well,
and a very late evening recording session.
It's interesting that what happens when you start talking the truth.
Yeah.
Especially the occult.
Yeah. Well, that used to happen to us a lot when we interview Russ Dizdar. It's like every time we talk to Russ Dizdar, the equipment would fail. So that's kind of strange. Nothing changed on that console, and all I did was move the mic cable from one input. Maybe the input's bad. I don't know, or maybe there's just something really weird going on. The recording here on this machine, this has been a rock solid, reliable machine for years, has failed 3 times now.
Right.
So this is the 4th segment that you're seeing as we stitch these pieces together. This is interesting stuff.
Well, we're not going to give up.
Cue the Twilight Zone.
Right? No. We're from the X-Files music.
There we go. X-Files. Right. That's even better. Yeah. So let's Michael Lake, that I brought him up because he said something once that I just keep coming back to because I think it's so cool. Just this mental image. He said, God put us here in this time, in this day, and in this place for his reasons. And he said, just think about it. The apostles and the saints, the prophets, leaning over the rails of heaven, wishing that they could be here for the final leg of the race and cheering us on as we run this last leg of this long race. And it's, an apt metaphor because Paul described it as running a race and wanting to run to the very end, run to the final, run through the tape. Not that I was ever an athlete. You might not have noticed, but that's not my calling. I just have heard about it. But that really is, I think, true. For whatever God's reasons are, and maybe it's because he's got a sense of humor.
Well, I'll tell you, absolutely. I mean, I got to, Derek, and there you might learn more about this at a later date. But when the Lord said to me, "Gather my people," he was absolutely at the very end of his Rolodex. And for you millennials, that used to be this thing that we had that we kept on our desk with little cards in it.
Yeah,
and we'd look through to see a name and give him a call. But he was at the end.
You didn't text?
Yeah, right. He didn't text.
No texting.
Right.
Yeah.
But he was at the end. I was the last person. I'm sure that he'd gone down the line, and everybody else had said, "Well, I could maybe do it, but." And when I got that call, I just looked at Jeannie and I said, "This is what we're going to do." And but the Lord will work with any of us. I mean, He truly will. And there's nothing special about me. There certainly is I mean, there's certainly special things about my wife, but there's nothing special about me other than the fact that I was obedient to what the Lord asked me to do. And each of you out there can do it. Michael Lake is absolutely right. The man is one of the most amazing men of God that I have ever met.
Yeah, Michael and Mary both. Mm-hmm. And she's had a really unique walk. Mm-hmm. And again, having met them and talked with them about their journey, after having met and talked to Russ, L.A., about things that they've encountered, things that have happened to them, Tom Horn has talked about some things that have happened in his life. Sharon has had things happen in her life. Right. Again, to me, that is not something that for whatever reason, God, maybe because I would freak out. I don't know. Yeah. I've not sensed or perceived those things that they have encountered or perceived. And yet, having met them, and I know that these are rational, intelligent, productive people who gain nothing by trying to make this stuff up. And then looking at, as I mentioned on this Skywatch TV program, you'll see the research that I've been doing over the last couple of years into the religions of the ancient world and how their beliefs are reflected in the Bible, in the sense that God is turning them around. Like you look in a reflection, everything's reversed. That like Dr. Michael Heiser's title of his book, most recent book, Reversing Herman. That's a lot of what is in the Bible is a reversal of what those people believed. Now, if that stuff was just imaginary, why would God even bother to do that? Why would he bother? He wouldn't. The other thing about this is that believing that, and sadly, this is what so many of us in the church have been taught, certainly is what I was taught when I was a kid, that all of these idols that were, the focus of worship in the pagan world in ancient days, were just imaginary, blocks of wood and stone. Well, that's not exactly how it worked in those days. Those were sort of like, radio receivers for the spirit realm. That's gave the god locality. That's why you had to create an image, because the god would come there when you prayed to him, okay? It's somehow the modern Christian church, and for the last 1,500 years, since about the time of Augustine, we've been conditioned to believe that all of these ancient civilizations, the great civilizations of the ancient world, Rome and Greece and Egypt and Persia and Assyria and Sumer, could build all of these megalithic structures and chart the movement of the stars and the planets to a precision that is hard to imagine without the help of computers. And they did it with civilizations that were based on instructions from imaginary friends. That all of this worship was just because they were imaginary friends for thousands of years. Really? That doesn't make any sense. They did these practices, they performed these rituals because they worked. Something about it gave power or information or something from the spirit realm to these pagans. And that's why God took so much care in the Bible to reverse those things. And that's why we need to lift the veil today, because the modern church has lost that perspective. The prophets knew this. That's the thing that's startling to me, just in some of the English translations, things that the prophets had written into their books that we've lost because we don't understand the nuances, or because the English translators are, these are just idols. So we'll just translate this word as plague instead of the name of a demon that the prophet knew, or pestilence. No, that was the god Resheph. Fortune. Oh, okay, that was another god named Gad. Destiny. No, that was another god. And Isaiah was talking about how they were setting up places at their table for these rituals for these deities. All of that stuff has kind of been translated out of the Bible because, they're just imaginary. Well, it's hard to do battle against an enemy that you think doesn't even exist. So anyway,
it is, and lifting the veil is so important.
Amen.
It truly is. And lifting the veil, I was speaking with Messianic Rabbi Zev Parat about it. And he
Love
goes,
him and Lynn. Yeah.
You realize how biblical that is.
Yeah.
And I said, not as much as I'm sure you do. And he explained to me about Moses having the veil to shield from the sheer intensity of God when he came down off the mountain, and then also the lifting of the veil to the bride.
Yeah.
But we really, that's how these conferences seem to work, because lifting the veil when it came was just lifting the veil on darkness. And it's just so wonderful to see God work and to see how these things happen. You mentioned you have people like Tom and Steve Quayle and Sharon who who have actually, talked to God, feel that they have talked to God. And I, have had, my wife will say, Mike has had prophetic dreams. He's had 2 of them that have come complete. I don't know about that. We were talking with L.A. Marzulli about this at Russ Disdar's house, actually, in Canton, Ohio over the weekend. And L.A. looked at me and he shook his head because you can call it what you want, but you better be aware that God talks to you and through your dreams. And that made it easier for me to handle and could make it easier for other people out there to handle. Yeah. To understand that if you listen, God's talking to you if you're listening to God. If you're not listening to God and just praying and talking at him, you're missing you're missing the train. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to be the one standing there on that train station platform watching that train pull away and say, oops, I missed it with what we have coming down the pipe.
It's funny. Sharon had a dream years ago, or early in our marriage, and this was still around the time when I was trying to convince her that, the Bible is... all roads lead to God. I was kind of universalist in my, I was not where I am now.
Right.
And she had a dream that someday I would be preaching in front of hundreds and hundreds of people. And I laughed. I was, okay, look, I'm a radio disc jockey. And temporarily in sales. Well, that temporary sales career lasted for 20 years before God put the broadcasting experience to better use. But that has come to pass. Where a lot of the weird stuff I talk about, it's like, okay, let's look at the occult origins of the modern UFO phenomenon. But there's actually a gospel message in there, which again it comes back to the reality of the spirit realm and these rebel gods. And the Bible is essentially a war journal of that long rebellion by these small g gods against his authority and how they have duped most of humanity into following their lead instead of his. Here we are, and we're looking forward to seeing you guys there in Long Island. Jeannie, we're looking forward to seeing what we're going to see in Israel. That's going to be phenomenal because we are going to be there on the 70th anniversary of Israel's independence and seeing a lot of other sites, too, historical and spiritual in significance. For people who are interested in the conference, Mike, where do people find out more about Lifting the Veil, the conference coming to Long Island in August?
It's excuse me, Derek. It's real simple. Just go to hear-the-watchmen.com. All the information is there. You can get your tickets there. I highly suggest you get your tickets sooner rather than later for 2 reasons. The first reason is our early bird special will be coming to an end very soon here. Mm-hmm. The second is we really do have limited seating at this particular conference, and you don't want to miss out. You really don't. I mean, the list of speakers is amazing. The timing of it is, it's just such an important time to get out there and participate in that worship, restoration, and revival. And of course, you can always just go to our YouTube channel, Hear the Watchman Journey, or just Google Hear the Watchman YouTube, and you'll see constant updates about the conference and interviews with people like you. And we ask you folks, please subscribe to our channel. If you like it, subscribe to it. If you don't like it, subscribe to it. Help us out. Be a part of what's really going on with the movement that the Lord has laid in front of us.
That's the Hear the Watchman Conference, Lifting the Veil, Ronkonkoma, New York. I've been practicing.
You can say that better than I can.
Ronkonkoma, New York, the Clarion Hotel and Conference Center in Long Island, August 9th through 11th, with the special on the 12th. Don't worry, these microphones won't pick that up. Don't worry about it. On the 12th, the added tour to Camp Hero on Montauk, the site that inspired the Netflix series Stranger Things, plus some other things on the 12th as well. For information and registration, hearthewatchmen.com. That's hearthewatchmen.com. Mike, Jeannie, thanks very much.
Thank you, Derek.
Check the notes below this podcast, whether you're listening at vftb.net, Stitcher.com, Spreaker.com, or now iHeartRadio. View from the Bunker now available at iHeart. Or if you're watching this at youtube.com/derek-gilbert. You'll find the link below to hearthewatchmen.com, which is where you'll find registration information for the Hear the Watchmen Conference on Long Island, August 9th through 11th, with the day trip to Montauk. Hopefully we can see you there. Do take advantage soon of that early bird discount. See the very context, the idea, the concept of the early bird is that you do it early Because if you wait, the discount will be gone. Seating might even be gone. Limited seating at the Clarion on Ronkonkoma, New York, Ronkonkoma, Long Island. So do take advantage of it soon, and we hope we'll see you there in August. Now, by the time you hear or see this, you'll know that Dr. Chuck Missler has been called home to be with the Lord. We received note from Koinonia House today, May 1st, that Chuck passed peacefully in his sleep at his home in New Zealand, joins his wife, Nan, in glory, along with their 2 sons. So he has left quite a legacy. His Bible studies, his books, his teachings, his conferences have touched many, many lives. Koinonia Institute educated many of us. I did not take advantage of it. I took advantage of some of his free resources. I have a copy of his book, Alien Encounters with Mark Eastman, which was very influential early on. Discovered that in a church library back in St. Louis, the church where Sharon and I got married, and opened my eyes to the truth that there are biblical answers to questions that I thought could only be addressed by science. Didn't realize the UFO phenomenon was actually a spiritual phenomenon. And reading that book started me on a path that's led to, well, the chair I'm sitting in right now. That also led to digging into the question of Genesis 6, which I'd heard about, never preached in church, though. That's where I stumbled onto L.A. Marzulli's work, his Nephilim trilogy, and again, that kind of has guided more or less the better part of the last 20 years of my life. So Dr. Missler will be missed. One of the great honors of my life has been the opportunity to interview him on several occasions, to just sit and talk to him and pick his brain. I know he was not without controversy. Anyone who thinks outside the box, outside of creeds, if you will, is going to attract some negative attention. Frankly, anybody who believes that the giants of Genesis 6 aren't the product of men of Seth and women of Cain will attract criticism from those who are stuck in creedal thinking instead of actually letting the Bible speak for itself. But anyway, his life, his work touched many, many people. And I'm sure he would not trade places and return to this plane of existence for anything right now. So if we miss Chuck, it says more about us and the impact he had on us than it does about where he would rather be at the moment. In other words, we're being selfish if we'd say we wish he was still here with us because he would not want to trade places and come back. So Dr. Chuck Missler called home at the age of 83. Well, as you know, if you've been paying attention the last few weeks, we are going to be on the road for the next few weeks. Sharon and I taking part in the Year 70 tour of Israel. We are leaving this weekend. We'll be back after the True Legends expedition to Rome and Sardinia. Those two just happen to work out, dovetail back to back. So we're going to be gone through Memorial Day. And so this program probably not going to get updated after the next interview, which I've already recorded with L.A. Marzulli about his new film, Fatima 2. That will be up by the weekend, God willing, trying to do a lot this week to get ready to get on the road. But after that, no guarantees. We'll try to record some things in Israel. Dr. Michael Heiser and his wife, of course, will be there with us, along with some other folks that I think be worthy of bringing to you via camera. Hopefully we can catch Aaron Lipkin for a time because he's got some really cool stuff, especially if you like the archaeology of the Holy Land, that I'd love to talk to him about. So, but no guarantees. Don't know how the schedule is going to work out. In fact, they're telling us they're not quite sure how things are going to work out because our schedule has us in Jerusalem on the 14th. May 14th, of course, is the day that Israel again celebrates its 70th anniversary of independence and the day that the United States moves its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. What with the Vice President, Secretary of State, UN Ambassador, and about 40 United States senators, plus dozens of congressmen, scores of congressmen, and their staffs, and security, we really don't know how our schedule is going to be impacted. So don't know what we'll be able to do in the way of recording. So if you don't hear from us again, at least on this channel, until June, that's why. Same with our Gilbert House Fellowship, which is our weekly Bible study. We're into the book of Ezekiel now. We left off at Ezekiel 27, Ezekiel 28, which is really where he starts getting into the really awesome stuff. And the whole book is incredible. But Ezekiel 28, we'll pick up with that once we get back in the month of June. So, until then, we appreciate you taking time out to give us a review at iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever else fine podcasts are sold. And remember, View from the Bunker now available at iHeartRadio. And of course, we appreciate you subscribing and sharing the fact that you've subscribed to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Derek-Gilbert. A View from the Bunker is a production of Gilbert House, released under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License. The opening theme is by Kevin MacLeod. His website is incompetech.com. Our announcer is DC Good, and we wrestle not against flesh and blood. I'm Derek Gilbert, and this is A View from the Bunker.